Get down! Russell bellowed, shoving Prime Minister Solaris to the floor as pulsar blasts ripped through the bridge. He never expected this alien to stare at him in such utter shock that a human would risk his life to save him. Russell Rogers, an ex-military space explorer, was on a routine deep space mission when his scanner picked up a distress signal. Protocol dictated ignoring it, but something compelled him to track the ping's source. Alone, he boarded the vessel to find it mangled, the corridors littered with unmoving blue bodies. All dead, except one. Prime Minister Solaris of the Benzite race, critically injured, but breathing. They were trying to kill me. To get the plans. Solaris sputtered through the universal translator as Russell tended his wounds. The Grath, a ruthless insectoid species, had ambushed them. With advanced Benzite shield tech, the Grath Armada would be unstoppable in their conquest of the galaxy. Solaris's secret mission to hide the plans had failed, unless Russell agreed to help him reach the remote destination planet. "This isn't my war. I'm no soldier anymore," Russell protested, but Solaris's next words chilled him to the bone. "The Grath won't stop at Benzar. They aim to enslave every sapient species, including humans. My people, your people, will all be chattel or corpses." The stakes crystallized in Russell's mind. A seasoned veteran, he knew he had the skills to complete this vital mission, perhaps the only one who did. The fate of the Benzites, of humanity, of the whole damn galaxy might hinge on him. So with a heavy sigh, he plotted a course to hide the plans, the Grath hunters surely already on their scent. Russell was no wide-eyed cadet. He knew the odds of success were grim. But he also knew he had to try. For the Benzites, for mankind, and for any poor bastards unlucky enough to be in the Grath's path. The mission to end all missions had found him, and Russell would see it through, even if it killed him. The old ship shook violently, sparks showering from damaged consoles as Grath pulsar blasts hammered the ancient hull. Russell gripped the unfamiliar controls, his knuckles tightening, sweat beading on his brow as he wrenched the ship into a sharp roll. A barrage narrowly missed them, the searing energy blasts flashing past the view screen. "Solaris, man the turret!" Russell yelled over the screeching alarms. The injured Benzite leader staggered to the gunner's chair, blue blood seeping through the bandages on his torso. He grabbed the control stick, his face set with pained commitment. Solaris fired back at their insectoid pursuers. The ancient ship's surprisingly potent weapons, lancing out and spearing a Grath fighter. It exploded in a plume of fire and shrapnel. Two more Grath ships bore down on them, emerald pulsar beams stitching deadly patterns around the battered craft. Russell jinked and juked, pushing the old vessel to its limits. G-forces pressed them back into their seats as the inertial dampeners struggled to compensate. A sharp bang reverberated through the hull as a glancing shot found its mark. "Shields down to 15%, Russell warned, sweat dripping into his eyes. He blinked it away, refusing to lose focus. Solaris grimaced but kept firing, his shots precise and relentless. Another Grath fighter bloomed into a fireball. The remaining Grath ship, realizing it was outmatched, veered off, smoke trailing from its damaged engines. Russell let out a shaky breath, easing their speed. Solaris slumped back in his chair, exhausted and hurting, but still resolute. "We can't take much more of this," Russell said, surveying the damage readouts with a frown. "We need to reach that Benzite outpost fast, or we're done." Solaris nodded wearily. "It should be just ahead, in the Zorian asteroid belt." Russell checked the star maps and altered course, the old ship limping towards the distant field of tumbling rocks. As they approached, he had to weave and dodge the asteroids, the ship shuddering with each narrow miss. "There," Solaris pointed to a large pitted asteroid. "The outpost is built into the rock. It was supposed to be a secret fallback point." His voice trailed off, pain and worry etching his blue features. Russell spotted the hangar bay doors set into the craggy surface and angled them towards it. As they drew close, his heart sank. The doors were buckled and blasted, scorch marks scouring the ancient rock around the twisted metal. He set them down right inside the dimly lit hangar, the ship bumping and scraping the uneven floor. They sat in silence for a moment, taking in the damaged interior. Russell glanced over at Solaris. The Benzite's expression was unreadable. "Come on," Russell said softly, heaving himself up. "Let's see what we can salvage." They stepped out cautiously, Russell gripping his sidearm and Solaris clutching the ship's plans close to his chest. The outpost had clearly seen battle. Debris and burned-out equipment littered the hangar. Scorch marks pocked the walls. An ominous silence hung in the still, recycled air. Solaris made his way to a flickering control panel, his fingers flying over the keys. He frowned at the readouts. Main power is down. Backup generators are failing, but there are life signs, weak ones, in the medical bay. Russell nodded grimly. "Let's hope they're friendlies." He took point, picking his way through the darkened, debris-strewn corridors, Solaris close behind. The acrid stench of smoke and burnt circuitry stung their nostrils. The door to the medical bay was jammed halfway open. Russell squeezed through, his weapon at the ready. Inside, a handful of figures lay on cots or slumped against the walls. Benzites, their blue skin ashen, many swathed in stained bandages. A few lifted their heads weakly at the intrusion, eyes widening at the sight of Solaris. "Prime Minister?" one rasped. "You're alive?" Solaris hurried to the Benzite's side, grasping his hand. "Yes, my friend, I have the plans. There is still hope." The wounded Benzite coughed, dark blood speckling his lips. "The Grath. They attacked in force. We were overrun so quickly. The homeworld. I fear the worst." Solaris's face tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "I will get these plans to our scientists. We will prevail. Rest now." Russell watched the exchange, a tight knot in his gut. This wasn't his war. These weren't his people. But seeing their suffering, their desperation, it stirred something in him. He thought of Earth, his family. If the Grath weren't stopped here, how long until his own people faced this fate? He stepped forward, meeting Solaris's gaze. In that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They were in this together until the end. "What do you need?" Russell asked simply. Solaris stood, his eyes hardening with tenacity. "A ship, weapons, and a way past the Grath blockade." Russell nodded, his lips pursed. "Then let's find them. We've got a war to win." Russell gripped the shuttle controls, his muscles straining as he wrestled with the failing systems. Alarms blared and sparks flew from overloaded circuits. Solaris clung to his seat, blue skin pale with stress. "We're losing power fast," Russell shouted over the din. "Life support's critical. We need to set down now." The shuttle plummeted through the atmosphere of an uncharted world, the hull glowing red-hot from the friction. Russell fought for every meter of altitude, but it was a losing battle. The ground rushed up to meet them. "Brace for impact." They slammed into the alien soil with bone-jarring force. Metal screamed and tore as the shuttle skidded across the landscape. When it finally ground to a halt, an eerie silence fell. Russell's head throbbed as he pried himself from the wreckage. He stumbled out, dragging the semi-conscious Solaris with him. As the smoke cleared, he took in their surroundings, a vast wilderness of purple vegetation under twin suns. "We need to move," Russell said, his military instincts kicking in. "Grab whatever supplies you can carry." They salvaged food, water, and survival gear from the shuttle. Russell fashioned a crude shelter from debris, while Solaris tended to their injuries. As night fell, eerie howls echoed in the distance. Dawn brought new dangers. A six-legged predator with razor-sharp claws stalked them through the alien forest. Russell's plasma rifle barked, the creature collapsing mid-pounce. "That was too close," he panted. More beasts came. Russell's aim stayed true, but their supplies dwindled. During a supply run back to the shuttle, disaster struck. An enormous, slug-like monster reared up, spewing corrosive acid. Russell dove aside, but searing pain erupted across his back and legs. He dragged himself back to camp, skin blistering. Solaris's eyes widened in horror. "Hold still," the Benzite said, applying a salve to Russell's wounds. This isn't good. We can't stay here. As Russell lay there gritting his teeth against the pain, Solaris dropped a bombshell. This planet. It's a secret benzite refuge. Our last hope if catastrophe struck. With the Grath invasion, that time has come. We must reach the underground facility and secure the shield plans. It's our only chance. Russell wanted to argue, to insist they hunker down and wait for rescue. But one look at Solaris's determined face, and he knew it was pointless. All right, he groaned, forcing himself to stand. Where to? They set out across the alien landscape, Russell limping but alert. A toxic river of bubbling purple sludge blocked their path. Russell jury-rigged a raft from shuttle debris, and they crossed the caustic flow. Jagged mountains loomed ahead. Russell's military training kicked in as he led them up treacherous slopes. Solaris stumbled, nearly plummeting to his death before Russell caught him. Beyond the peaks stretched a plain of glittering, razor-sharp crystals. Each step threatened to slice through their boots. Russell fashioned crude snowshoes from salvaged metal, allowing them to skim across the deadly field. After days of grueling travel, they finally reached their goal, a massive door set into a cliff face. Solaris rushed to the control panel, but nothing happened. The security systems are offline, he said, frantically working the alien tech. A rumbling shook the ground. Massive, worm-like creatures erupted from the soil, gnashing teeth filling maws the size of escape pods. Russell opened fire, his rifle screaming. Solaris joined in with a benzite particle weapon. The battle raged, neither side giving ground. Russell's rifle clicked empty. In desperation, he grabbed the antimatter core from their shuttle's wreckage. "Get down!" he yelled, hurling the device into the swarm. The resulting explosion vaporized the creatures and blasted the facility doors wide open. Stumbling inside, they found themselves in a cavernous chamber filled with advanced machinery. Robotic sentries snapped to attention, recognizing Solaris's authority. The Prime Minister quickly secured the shield plans in a vault. "We did it," Solaris said, relief evident in his voice. "Now we can begin planning our counterattack." Russell stared in awe as production lines whirred to life, churning out weapons and ships. The scale of what Solaris had prepared struck him. This wasn't just a refuge. It was an arsenal. "With this," Solaris declared, "we can take the fight back to the Grath, but we'll need allies." He turned to Russell. "Your people have proven their worth. Will you stand with us?" Russell hesitated. Earth needed to be warned about the Grath threat. But leaving now, with the hope of the universe hanging in the balance, Russell stood in the cavernous command center of the Benzite Sanctuary, surrounded by holographic displays and bustling robotic workers. The air hummed with energy as fabricators churned out weapons and ships at a furious pace. He watched a group of sleek fighters roll off the production line, their hulls gleaming under the harsh lights. "Impressive," Russell muttered, running a hand along the smooth surface of a newly minted plasma cannon. Solaris approached, his blue skin reflecting the glow of the computer terminals. "Our counterattack is taking shape," he said, gesturing to the growing armada. "But we need your expertise to make it work." Russell nodded, a knot forming in his stomach. He'd come to respect the Benzites and their struggle, but involving himself further risked dragging humanity into an interstellar war. Still, he couldn't deny the strategic necessity of striking back against the Grath. "What did you have in mind?" Russell asked. Solaris brought up a holographic star map, zooming in on a volcanic world orbited by massive shipyards. "This is the heart of the Grath war machine," he explained. "If we can cripple it, we buy ourselves time to rally a real defense." Russell studied the defenses, his military training kicking in. Frontal assault would be suicide, he mused. But if we could get boarding parties inside... "Exactly," Solaris said, eyes gleaming. "Our robotic troops are perfect for the job. Will you help us plan the attack?" After a moment's hesitation, Russell nodded. "Let's do it." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Russell pored over Grath schematics, devising insertion points and mapping out internal systems. He oversaw the modification of stealth fighters, equipping them with specially designed boarding torpedoes. As the deadline approached, Russell found himself in the hangar, surrounded by rows of robotic shock troops. Their metal faces were impassive, but he felt the weight of responsibility all the same. "Remember," he told the assault team leaders, "your primary objectives are the reactor controls and command centers. Avoid unnecessary engagements and stay focused on the mission." Solaris strode up, resplendent in his battle armor. "It's time," he said. "I'll be leading from the front in our new battle cruiser. The fate of our people rests on this attack." Russell clasped the Benzite's arm. "Good luck out there." The strike force slipped past the outer defenses of the Grath shipyards, a testament to Benzite's stealth technology. Russell, monitoring from the command center, held his breath as the first wave of fighters approached their targets. "Now," he barked into the comm. Boarding torpedoes streaked from the fighters, punching through hull plating. Alarms blared across the shipyards as Grath defenders scrambled to repel the unexpected assault. Russell's fingers flew across the tactical displays, coordinating the staggered deployment of robot troops. "Team Alpha, push for the reactor core," he ordered. "Beta, secure that command node." On the main view screen, Solaris's battle cruiser engaged the Grath capital ships. Energy weapons lanced back and forth, shields flaring under the onslaught. Russell winced as a Benzite cruiser exploded, but Solaris pressed the attack relentlessly. "We've breached the main fabrication plants," a robotic voice reported, "initiating sabotage protocols." Russell allowed himself a grim smile. The plan was working, despite heavy losses. He directed more forces to consolidate their gains, seizing critical systems across the shipyards. Suddenly, Solaris's face appeared on the comm screen, his expression triumphant. "Russell, we've reached the central reactor complex. We can trigger an overload, destroying the entire facility." Russell's elation turned to horror as he processed the implications. "Wait!" he shouted. "There are human workers here, slaves or indentured labor. We can't just kill them all." Solaris's eyes narrowed. "You knew the Grath had human collaborators? This is unacceptable. Your species cannot be trusted if they would side with such monsters." "It's not that simple," Russell protested, struggling to explain humanity's complex motivations. "Some might have been coerced or lured by profit without understanding the full situation." "Enough," Solaris snapped. "You have a choice to make, Russell. Either authorize the reactor overload, or the Benzites will consider humanity compromised. When we defeat the Grath, your people will be left to fend for themselves." Russell's mind raced, weighing the lives of the human workers against the larger stakes of the conflict. The fate of multiple species hung in the balance. With a heavy heart, he made his decision. "Do it," he said quietly. "Overload the reactors." Solaris nodded grimly. "For the future of the galaxy," he said, cutting the transmission. Russell slumped in his chair, the weight of his choice crushing down on him. As klaxons blared and evacuation orders echoed through the shipyards, he knew the course of the war, and humanity's place in it, had been irrevocably altered. Russell stood on the bridge of the Benzite flagship, his hands clenched at his sides as he watched the smoldering wreckage of the Grath shipyards drift past on the screen. The acrid stench of scorched metal and burning flesh still clung to his nostrils, a grim reminder of the horrors he'd witnessed. Solaris approached, his blue skin ashen with fatigue. "We've won a great victory today," he said, his voice low. "But at what cost?" Russell turned to face his alien comrade, his eyes haunted. "Those people, what the Grath did to them." He trailed off, unable to find words to describe the nightmarish scenes he'd witnessed in the assimilation chambers. "They chose their fate," Solaris said coldly. "Now we must focus on the task at hand. Our homeworld awaits liberation." The Prime Minister's words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken tension. Russell felt the weight of his next decision pressing down on him like a physical force. "And what of the humans we rescued?" he asked, dreading the answer. Solaris's expression hardened, They will be quarantined, as I said. We cannot risk further contamination or betrayal. Russell's lips pursed. They're victims, Solaris. They need help, not imprisonment. Your people have proven themselves compromised, Solaris snapped. How many more willingly submitted to that abomination of joining? No, we cannot trust them. The bridge fell silent as the two locked eyes, neither willing to back down. Finally, Russell spoke, his voice low and dangerous. I won't abandon them or my duty to Earth. Solaris's eyes narrowed. Then you leave me no choice. Guards! Robotic sentries snapped to attention, weapons trained on Russell. He tensed, ready to fight, but Solaris raised a hand. No, I won't make you a martyr, the Benzite said, but neither can I allow you to interfere. You will remain under house arrest until our campaign is complete. As the robots escorted him off the bridge, Russell's mind raced. He had to find a way to warn Earth, to save the human survivors. But how? The door to his quarters hissed shut behind him, the lock engaging with a final damning click. Russell slumped against the wall, the full weight of his situation crashing down upon him. Through the viewport, he watched as the Benzite armada prepared for its final desperate assault. Thousands of lives hung in the balance, human and alien alike, and he was powerless to stop it. Or was he? A plan began to form in Russell's mind. It was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it might be the only way to save both humanity and the Benzites from the coming storm. With renewed purpose, Russell set to work. The fate of two civilizations now rested on his shoulders. He only hoped he was up to the task.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.